Welcome to the podcast, Gabi. I'm so excited to get to talk to you again. We've been a couple years since we've had a chat, and your business has blossomed so much. Could you just share a little bit about your journey with yoga, how that ties into your business?
Yes, amazing. Adrian, thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to be here. And yes, oh my word, like, where do I even start? So I guess like anybody, any yogi under the sun, like I just fell in love with the practice and it literally changed my life. And I was like, the whole world needs to practice yoga. And if the world practices yoga, we're just going to be a bunch of happy people. And so that's always been the mission for my business, truly, is like get yoga into the hands of more people and genuinely raise the frequency of the planet through yoga. So not a small mission, but one that I believe in. And, I think that my business really pivoted where I was teaching all over South Africa. That was before we immigrated. I was teaching all over South Africa at a lot of the studios, and then the pandemic hit and lost my job. And like many teachers, I had to go online. But what I really found happening, because I've got a marketing background of about 15 years now where I've done PR, events, marketing management, all of those things, is that I really found myself helping my colleagues and friends with their marketing because my marketing was doing really well in the pandemic and filling all the Zoom rooms and all the things. And so as I was doing that, I was like, wow, like I actually adore doing this. And so that's really where that's really how the business took off. And so we immigrated to New Zealand in the middle of the pandemic. And it was once we immigrated that I got here and I was like, there is no plan B. I've got two small boys. I do not want them to be in a daycare all day long while I have to go to a 9 to 5. And so it was really scary because I wasn't earning any money, really. I was earning nothing for almost like a year of doing this. And because I thought going viral was genuinely the answer, which, spoiler alert, it's really not. But yeah, and after that, then the business really started to take off because I got my act together, got really clear on the vision that I had and just started building towards it. And so and yeah, here we are now almost 3 years later, and it's just completely blown up beyond my dreams. So that's really how we got it all started.
Yeah, that's amazing. And we'll get into a little bit more of how you managed to do that through your content. So one thing I know people can have a love-hate relationship with Instagram. Does it work for everyone? Are there some types of people that it just resonate better with that type of marketing or different sort of skills? Is there sort of a best person that it will be effective for?
I honestly believe in my heart, like I have got my mother who's like in her 60s and she like sends me memes all day from Instagram. I've got my husband on Instagram who's like the complete opposite of my mother, who's like always on Instagram. I've got my kids who want to go on it. I genuinely think that everybody's ideal client is on Instagram. And it's not that like I've got just a preference of this platform. It's just genuinely how I started. And I just, I've managed to build my entire business using one platform without a website, without going on LinkedIn, YouTube, any of those types of things. And it's been incredibly successful. And so it's not that I think that it's like one platform's better than another platform, but I really do believe that once you decide on a platform and it's like, cool, this is the one that I'm using, like master it and it'll work for you. And so, yeah, like I think for sure, Instagram, it would work for anybody, but it's that decision behind like, yeah, I'm going to make this work for me. Like that's the difference that I see.
Yeah, I know Ashley Hagen, she seems to be on all the places, but talking to her, she's specifically like picked one and then
Yes,
spent like a whole year focusing on that one. And she's done that
yes,
for a while. It looks like she's just everywhere, but it was very intentional.
one. Yeah.
So if we decide that we want to focus on Instagram, because one thing about Instagram I've noticed is that it did kind of dip when sort of TikTok came in terms of popularity, but it definitely feels like it's cycled back around and held a little bit more constant compared to some of the popularity of other platforms that have been around. But do we need to post everywhere? Do we need to be on Instagram constantly to grow our business?
So I love that question because honestly, like you really don't. I'm personally not the person I do not post like every single day. I don't believe in that, burning yourself out to that degree. I'm very much like quality over quantity. And I know that there's heaps of people who disagree with that, which is fine. But for me, I really do look at the things that I do on Instagram. I kind of look at it as like I'm going into my office and this is how I operate. And so it's like 3 to 4 times a week, I'll post content. 5 days a week, I'll hop on my Instagram stories because I look at that as like, cool, this is my storefront. This is where I'm going to go sell every day. And the DMs are obviously where I close a lot of my sales. And so one of the reasons I love Instagram is because like if we really zoom out and we look at a lot of these other platforms, like TikTok, for example, TikTok, most of your content is going out to like cold audiences. So people who don't really know you, even if they're following you, because that's how it's designed. It's like really designed to like bring new people into your world, which is amazing. But you'll find like heaps of people that are using TikTok are equally as active on Instagram because this is where you nurture your people and you love on them. And this is where that brings them to your DMs or wherever where you close the sales. And so, yeah, like I just think that it's not about like needing to do more on a platform, but it's about really leveraging how you can use it smartly. And that's really one of my core values is I do a lot of like repurposing of content from my feed to my Instagram stories to my email list. Like it's really not about doing more, at least for me.
So it's more just being really intentional about what you are doing. So if you're like, I'm going to post twice a week, you are posting twice a week rather than randomly. So do we have to do all of the things on Instagram? Do we have to do reels? Do we have to do carousels, stories, all of them? Or can you sort of just like pick one aspect of the platform that you prefer?
I love that question because honestly, like my reflection is, well, like, what do you love? Like, what do you love doing? Do you love making reels and filming videos? Then heck, go and do a million reels and have fun with it. Like, do you love writing and getting into Canva and designing and stuff? Like, go and make carousels. Like, I think that there's so much behind people are like, oh, you need to do reels for reach. And yes, you need to do carousels to like nurture your audience and you need to do Instagram lives to do X, Y, and Z. But honestly, like there is such a difference between ticking a box and creating content through that lens. Like, oh, I have to do a live. Oh, I have to do an Instagram reel. And chances are is that those things don't take off because you're not actually enjoying it. And so I think that there's some duality there. Like for me, of course, yeah, reels are going to get you reach. So like you bet your bottom dollar, like I've got reels inside my feed. Like I've got reels and I do have intention for some reels to go viral. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, like whatever. But I will have that in my mix, but at the same time, like I am like a carousel girly. I love doing carousels. That's just my vibe. Like I'm also a copywriter, and so messaging and writing comes easy to me. And so like I'll definitely have that stuff in my feed. And one reason why I personally love carousels is because, when we swiping on Instagram, we're swiping up, up, up. But carousels actually like break your brain pattern. It like makes you go left, right, left, right. And so just that in itself, like I find really helps people engage with my content more, even if they don't necessarily think that they are. They're like, oh, okay, now I'm reading what she has to say. So I definitely think there's room for a mix, but I definitely also think like a lean in, like, what do you love to do and do that? Like just have fun with it.
Yeah, that's a great message. I love that because I think with marketing, there's so many people trying to sell us like one way to do it and build your whole business. And I think it just doesn't work for everyone. You've really got to pick your strengths and what you enjoy with marketing. Like you said, you can do the writing, or if you do like speaking, you can do that instead, or a bit of both. So that's really good. Yeah. So we're creating a bunch of content, not heaps, but we've dedicated to creating content every week. What is the simplest tactic that you would recommend to help us create content en masse this way?
On that.
You mentioned repurposing.
Yeah, so that for me is like really my secret weapon. And so I look at it in two ways, right? Because for me, like coming onto Instagram, like the way that I teach my clients is that Instagram stories is very much a part of my business, very much a reason why I've been able to grow it so quickly because that is really where your people are always hanging out. Like your biggest fans, you bet they are watching your Instagram stories. And so I look at Instagram and I'm like, okay, cool. There are two types of content I need to be creating for. It's my feed and it's my stories. And so for me, like I said, I will repurpose content from my feed into my stories, and I've got like a little system, Google Docs, and I use Asana to just keep everything there. And then what I do, a client actually asked me the other day, like, do I go and check my insights and stuff? And I honestly, I very seldomly do. But when I do, I will go look at content. Okay, cool. This got me the most profile clicks. This got me the most this and that. And so I'll look and then I'll repurpose that over into maybe a different format, or wait a couple of months, like 2 or 3 months, and then I'll repost it again. But I mean, people have got like a 2 second attention span. So nobody's really focusing. Oh my gosh, she did this on her stories 3 months ago. How she's posting it now? Like, it doesn't.
Yeah. When you say you're repurposing from your feed to your stories, is that sharing from your feed to your story, or you're actually doing a video talking about whatever it is you just talked about in your feed?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I do both. I know that people are also getting controversial, like don't share your content to your stories, which it doesn't make sense to me. I'm like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, I've heard
But
that.
it's a bit bizarre. But I'm like, no, for me, I will literally go and I'll take a caption, and then I will go and video me talking, saying these words of the caption on my Instagram story. So it's actually taking that piece of content and whatever I've like written, maybe it's a carousel, and then I'll go and I'll film like a video of me talking in my stories, like saying that kind of content as well.
One thing with marketing is they say people need to hear something 7 times, I think it is, before they'll actually absorb it or take action
Yeah.
on it. So that's, I guess, guiding your people an extra step of being able to do that.
Yeah. Well, they actually, and that study I think was done in the 1950s. Because I was using that I was using that example, that like case study, in something that I was doing. And these days now, with like TikTok and LinkedIn and all of these other different things that are vying for our attention, it's probably like at least like 21 times that somebody needs to hear it. So it's not even like repurposing things once or twice. You can go crazy, like just
Yeah.
go big.
Yeah. And not everyone's going to see your stories every single day anyway, so they might have missed it entirely the last time rather than even it being a repeat.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of collaborations and partnership style marketing. Are they useful when you're building an Instagram business, or can you just go in and do it all on your own?
Oh my word. Like, honestly, I cannot imagine doing this without some key people that I've met on the internet. And I think that there's no wrong way or right way to build a business, but I really do believe that it's exceptionally lonely, especially when you're trying to do it on your own, because maybe you see like certain competitors as like really big competition and you just don't want to go there, or whatever it comes across as. But I really have found, because that was me for a little bit in the beginning as well, but I've really found that by doing that, you are cutting yourself off, not from just creating incredible connections, but from incredible business opportunities. In fact, I just did an Instagram live with a friend of mine who I went on his yoga retreat last year to Italy. And he was just someone I met on Instagram, and we spoke a lot about it. And I went on the yoga retreat, and then we landed up creating a course together, launching a course together. And so you just never know where these things can actually take you if you're open to it. So I'm all for collaborations over competition any day.
I love when you get to meet someone you've met online in person and you're like, yay. Feels like a deeper friendship as well in many
Yes.
ways. So I know, especially for yoga teachers, I think the actual selling part can feel a bit sleazy and icky or just uncomfortable. But you have to do it to actually get sales. I remember one of my clients earlier in the year, and we were talking, and she's like, look, I'm not getting people in my membership. And she's got a really engaged like email list. And I was like, do you actually ask people to join? And she was like, no, I never asked them to join. And I was like, maybe we
Okay.
start adding that into the equation. So we do have to at some point. How do you balance the selling versus the providing value on Instagram when you're creating your content?
It's such a good question. And honestly, like, I don't know if I'm the best person, because I'm like sell every freaking day. And that's just what you have to do, just like sell all the time. And so for me, I also know that it can be incredibly difficult when you are not used to selling. And so one of the things that I really like lean back because it took me a while. It took me a while to get out of this because I was like, okay, cool. I really love it when people are engaging with my content, and I love it when they're, we're just friends and we're making connections, and this is great. But like one of the things that really started to help me was when I looked at it and it says, if you don't look at selling through the lens of like, I'm trying to sell you something, and you actually look at it as like, I don't care if I get a sale or not. Like, this is for you. This is for you. I'm doing this for you because I know that this is your next step. Like, I trust and believe this to my bone. I believe that you will both win. Like, you will both win because you will make the sale and your client's life is about to be changed. And a lot of people say sales is service and stuff, but I think the biggest problem that I see with people, especially like yoga teachers who have got these incredible memberships, they've got courses, and they've got all of this incredible knowledge that they're sitting on, is that they're not sold on it themselves. And if you're not convicted, if you're not sold on it, like nobody else is going to feel that. And so you have to trust that you are the person. You need to be 2 steps ahead of your ideal client. That's it. Like, but you have to trust in your bones that what you have is magical, and it is. And it's not like, I mean, I tell people all the time, it's not like you're selling drugs. You're selling yoga, Like, let's put it into perspective.
Yeah, that's really good advice of really tapping into how you feel about your offers and what you're creating. And if you know you're not creating something to be a sleazy salesman, then
Yeah.
it's going to be magic and you're actually going to help people. How important are engagement metrics? You mentioned you don't really look at them too much, but likes and shares and all of that kind of thing, views. Is there anything that we should be paying attention to? What should people focus on if they're feeling really frustrated that their content's not really getting the engagement they were hoping for?
It's such a good question. So, like, honestly speaking, if you scroll back to my Instagram like 2 years ago, I used to get like 50 comments, 100 comments. Like, my engagement was popping. I was making no money. Okay. So, let's just put this into perspective. Fast forward 2 years later, I have very little engagement on my stuff. I get like views, cool, whatever, but my engagement in terms of comments, likes, and all of that, not great. A lot of my stuff does hit the carousel page, the explore page, but this is because I know a lot of people are paying attention to my content and they're going to my profile. They're clicking on my link. And so while engagement in terms of like vanity metrics, which is kind of what we call them, the likes, the comments, the shares, the saves, those feel really good. But the metrics that I really do pay attention to are the ones that are driving people to my profile. So from the outside, it doesn't look like there's that much happening, but I'm okay with that. It's taken me a long time. And I think a thing that I see with like a lot of my clients, some of them, is that we associate our value and our self-worth with how many likes or comments we get. And it's subconscious to some degree. And so as a result, we water down what we really want to say. We keep ourselves in like the friend zone with our audience because we are just, sharing like food and pictures of our dogs to our stories, which is fine. But it's like we do these things because we're like, no, we need them to like us, right? We have this deeper need. But when we do that, you really are self-sabotaging yourself because you didn't come here just to be liked by everybody, right? Like, you want to be liked by everybody, go buy them ice cream, right? You're here to build a business. So this is what we need to focus on. And you want to build a business, you got to understand that not everybody's going to like you. That's okay. Like, we're here for bigger things. And so it's a perspective shift, but it is a hard one. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, so we're looking at clicks through to the websites and the offers, and then how do you know something's working? Are there any key content strategies around that people are missing?
Well, I think that if you're seeing that people are clicking your profile, people are clicking your links, and people are asking you, hey, DM me the word, and they're actually DMing you the word, that's a sign that things are working, right? Because and that's in terms of building the business, in terms of like making more sales. Those are absolutely signs that things are working. Like for me, it's not really about like how many comments I get, but cool, is my content like resonating with my people? And the fact that are people DMing me and saying, hey, Gabi, can I have info? Like, is that stuff happening on the back end? And when that's happening on the back end, then I'm like, cool, things are working. But yeah, like in terms of like I say, insight metric and things, I don't really know. I just kind of go for like, as long as the DMs are there, as long as I can see people clicking profiles and link clicks, we're good.
And then are there any strategies you recommend to like get people to DM you? Is it just, there's a few different ways I've seen people are going about it.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like something that I started doing in my business recently, which felt like a little bit, it felt like a little bit uncomfortable in the beginning, but I'm really glad that I made the switch, was that most of my content in terms of my call to actions, even on my stories, is that I mostly use DM me the word, and people will DM me the word. And I very seldomly direct people to my link in bio. I very seldomly direct them to links in my stories. I genuinely just want them to DM me because I want to have that human connection first and foremost. Like, I think that that's such an important part and such an important piece. And more than that, I really do believe like you've got more kind of control over sales, quote unquote, when you're actually speaking to someone in the DMs, they're making sure you're a good fit, you're making sure they're a good fit. It's different as opposed to sending to your LinkedIn bio, especially if marketing is not your strong point. Where are you sending them to, right? Like, are you sure that your sales pages or your checkout pages or your websites, like, are they really designed to be high converting? Because if they're not designed to be high converting, then you're going to lose out on a sale. So these are just some things to take into account with how to best direct people.
And then once they're in your DMs, are you just having like a normal conversation with them? How do you kind of direct it?
Yeah. So I usually talk to them. I will find out like what their goals are because I want to make sure that cool, I'm the right person to support them with it. And once I understand what their goals are, then I will be like, cool, here we go. These are your options. So if this is what you want to be doing, do you want more information? And more often than not, they'll say yes. I also wanted like preface, like I get ghosted heaps in the DMs. Like not every person who DMs me buys, and that's okay. I don't worry about that. I think, for me, again, it's like it's not about getting attached to one particular person or one particular sale. It's just like cool, like this is how things go. When you walk into a shop sometimes and you love the dress, but then you put it on and you're like, oh, I'm not sure this was for me. And you're standing at the counter and they want to sell you like a million different accessories, and you're like, oh, I'm not so sure. Like you don't always buy everything, and that's okay. And so, but regardless, like I think that it's just about having that human moment, finding out that you're the right person for them and vice versa, that you can actually support them, and then just giving them the information they need to make a decision.
That's good advice. Just taking all of sort of sleaziness away. You're just trying to help people and finding out that you are the right person to help people.
Yeah.
For anyone that is sitting here and they're like, Gabi, I've been trying all the social media, I feel like it's not working out for me. The algorithms are burning me out. Do you have any advice for them? How can they kind of get back into it? What do they do?
So I know that we kind of spoke about this, but honestly, like the worst question that you could honestly ask yourself is, why is this not working? It doesn't matter if it feels like the algorithm, if you've got low views, if you've got low story views, it feels like nobody's reading your content. Honestly, the worst question that you can ask yourself is, why is this not working? The question that you need to be asking yourself is, who do I need to be for this to work? Because already there, it is a very different frequency. And I know that a lot of the clients that I work with, a lot of the women are extremely ambitious. They're driven. They didn't come here just to kind of like Mickey Mouse their way and maybe make a sale or two. Like a lot of the women that I work with, like they really want to build something amazing and leave a legacy for their kids. They want to go travel. They want to, beat the studio burnout. They want to do these things. And so in terms of like, okay, cool. So ask the question, who do I need to be for that to happen? Like, if I want to have an engaged online community that like is over 10K followers, so who do I need to be? And when you ask the question, like, who do I need to be? Okay, then ask yourself, well, how does she move? What is she doing? Is she still scrolling Instagram for 20 hours before she makes a post? Probably not. Is she still coming on and going to another competitor and being like, oh, okay, cool, that's what she posted, I'm going to post something similar? Like, is she still doing that? She's probably not. Is she spending so like she probably values her time. She's probably even invested in something. If she doesn't know how to do it, if she doesn't understand courses or content or whatever, she's probably gone and invested in a content course just so she's gotten better at it. And so when you decide, okay, cool, I need to be a person, and you start to move like her, you're going to see the results 10 times faster than if you start being like, oh, okay, cool. Well, maybe I need to post at 10 o'clock, or maybe I need to just use a cool engagement sticker on my stories and then I'll get more views. Like, no, that's just playing in, I call it like follower energy. And we want to really move into that leader energy, especially when we're running the business this way.
Love that. It's very just a huge shift in your own persona, I suppose. And then if you're like, yes, okay, ready, I'm ready to be her. Well, I'm not sure what to say. Writer's block, I think it happens to all of us, or creator's block. Have you got any advice of where you can sort of tap into that motivation to actually put the content out there?
Yeah. I think that, a lot of the times there's two things that happen is that it's like you overthink everything. And when you overthink everything to some degree, it's like, oh, is this good enough? Will this resonate? Like then you're slipping back into that disempowered follower energy. So already you're out of alignment. Like already you're playing a losing game. Like it's just not going to happen. And I think that when it comes to the content, like one thing that you'll see, and I think of it, it's like reps in the gym, right? Like it's like you're not going to go to the gym on the first day and be able, and I say this because I just sweated in the gym with my husband. He was trying to make me like pull up these like heavy weights. But it's like you're not going to go in there on day one and be able to like bicep pull 8 kilos. Like it's just not going to happen. You've got to put in the reps. And so you're going to start with the threes and you're going to work your way up to the fives. And so just because you go in there and it's like, oh my gosh, okay, I posted this reel yesterday and whatever, nobody saw it, there were low views, or nobody clicked the link, nobody DM'd me the word, whatever's coming up for you. There's a decision that you make. It's like, cool, is that just that? I just say, okay, cool, that's evidence. That's just evidence. That's just how I look at it. Cool. And we carry on moving. How does she move? What does she do? What does she need to know? How's she going to post? And so that's the one side of it. But I really do think that there's two things coming up. Like I say, like it's overthinking, but it's also, do you really know your ideal client? Because this is important, right? Is that a lot of people kind of think that it's like, oh, I don't really need one. Like, yeah, I've done the work, right? Like we've all done a good workbook in our day, but I am still refining my ideal client. I'm still getting to know her every single day. Why? Because when you master the basic and you really, really like refine your messaging to that degree, like that refinement is the difference between $100 day, a $0 day, or $1,000 day. Truly. Like there are women on the internet that are making insane amounts of money just by posting carousels, just by posting reels. And it's not because they are unicorns and amazing, but genuinely it's because they are so focused, laser focused on who they're talking to. And they are just moving like the woman who has got it all. Like they are just moving like that woman who knows what she wants and is building the business. And I really do believe like those two things that'll change the game for you.
Yeah. So we're becoming an authority figure for this very specific person. And can you get too specific?
I promise you my clients will laugh. Like specificity is my favorite word. I love it so much. I don't think that there's a way to be too specific. I think that when you are online, I think we forget about how big the space is, and that when we really do not hone in on little quirks or things that we know about our ideal client, it just pushes us further and further into the background. And there are 5,000, 100 million other yoga teachers, healers, coaches, whatever on the internet doing the exact same thing as you. And so by you just trying to like be really nice because, oh, I really like this one, or I want to help men and women and whatever, like you want to help everybody, like you're just pushing yourself further and further back. It's not about, and I think that you see that the further along in the journey as you go. It's quite hard if you're right in the beginning of the journey. I understand that too. But the sooner that you get that, the sooner and go and study things. Go study the accounts that you follow. Go study these health coaches. Go study these whatever Instagram gurus. Go study them, and you will see their content is sharp. It is focused. It is so specific to their ideal client's problems. And when you start to study it, and you're like, okay, I get it now. I see the game. I understand. That's when things will shift completely. And that's really where like you move into, like you said, being an authority, and that like, so like that's your first step. That's the first step there. Just getting laser focused and being unapologetic about what it is that you're posting.
Yeah, definitely niching has been something that I have struggled with myself because you're like, oh, but I want to help all the people, or it's a little bit of it's my ADHD brain going through phases where I'll be like, I'm really into herbalism now. I can do things for herbalists and all of that. So, but I think it's also important to remember that you can change or broaden out later as well if you choose to. But if you
Yeah.
start with that one focus, it's just going to make it easier for you to make decisions on what you're doing and creating.
Yeah, I agree.
When we're building ourselves as an authority figure, um, is it kind of like a community that you're building or more of an audience that you're talking to, if that makes sense? Is there a
Oh, that's
difference?
a good question. That's a good question. I feel like I always have referred to my community as my audience. Like, I guess, and it's interesting. I think maybe that's just the further along that I got in the business, there was just that subtle shift, but pretty important shift, I guess, because for me, like, yeah, your community, you are leading a community. Make no mistake, you're leading a community. But even more than that, I think like we really want to go deeper. It's like move aside the word community, move aside the word audience. Like what you really want to do is like you want to lead a movement, right? Because that is truly like a gateway to change. Like you want to create a big impact with your business. You want to reach more people. When we look at people who are doing this in a big way, they don't think about communities, they don't think about audiences, they're genuinely leading a movement. When we look at people like, I don't even know, like Russell Brunson, for example, like he's an absolute huge, huge player in the space. He's like done incredibly well, the founder of ClickFunnels, and he's built a movement with funnel hackers, right? So it's like, you don't just aspire to like, you don't just follow him, like you aspire to be a funnel hacker. And so if we really want to go bigger, it's like, well, what game do you want to play? So if you want a community, sure, like you can build a community and that's perfect. Like you want to build the business, you want to build it up, like cool, keep doing that. But I think that I think that there's a subtle difference when you're like, oh, just got a little community. I think that that's going to keep you in that follower energy that we spoke about, right? Because if that's all you ever want for yourself, or that's how you ever think about it, it's never going to go bigger than that. But when you kind of like zoom out and you're like, wow, I can create such a huge positive wave of impact with this work. I can reach so many women. I can change so many people's lives. The shift completely, it transforms, it changes. And that is what like permeates into your content, that permeates into your stories. Because when we are building essentially a strong brand like that, and that's what we're doing in this space, we're building these personal brands that people see you. It's not even about the content that much. Like they just want to be part of your world. They just want to hop into your office. They just so magnetized to what it is that you're doing that it becomes a completely different experience as opposed to going onto somebody's page where it's like, here's how to do downward dog, So,
Mhm.
and you
Yeah.
feel it.
Yeah. I love that. Movement sounds very exciting and invigorating and
Yeah.
powerful and what's the word I'm looking for? No, baby brain has lost it. But
Maybe.
but very like exciting and uplifting, I guess. And so I can see that you can be like, yes, Gabby, this is exciting. I want a movement. But I can see a whole wave of imposter syndrome then coming back down, like, who am
Yes,
I to do a movement, especially if you're a new yoga teacher as well. And you're still like yoga's a lifetime of study ahead of you whenever most of us will never become any kind of guru status. How do you handle that imposter syndrome and build a movement at the same time and sort of juggle those two
it
identities
is.
and emotions, I suppose?
Totally, totally. And I think like imposter syndrome, spoiler alert for any newbies, like it doesn't go away. It just changes as you grow. It doesn't go away. And I think that the biggest thing that I keep coming back to always, and again, it comes back to mastering the basics, is you only need to be 2 steps ahead of your ideal client. That's genuinely it. Like it doesn't have to be any deeper than that. Don't make it any deeper than that. Right? Like you literally just need to be 2 steps ahead and you're good. And again, it's not like, and I imagine that the woman or the person that's listening to this, I imagine that you're probably teaching really good things inside of your offers. I imagine that you're teaching really trusted techniques, that you're sharing real, like, proven methods and wisdom and the teachings from your heart. Like, I genuinely believe that everything that you're probably doing is not just good, it's incredible and it's amazing and it's got so much value. And so don't discount that for any second. And so that's the first thing in terms of like your imposter syndrome, like really check in, and I think that it's like, if you are selling something that is like, oh, okay, well, I kind of have done this and yeah, I'm just going to teach it to you and I'm just going to put a Google Doc and there you go. That's your offer. Like, different story, right? Different story. But again, I don't imagine that your audience has that, Adrian. So I don't think that that's the issue. But I think that it's like, okay, cool. So that's the one side of imposter syndrome. But I think that it's like, okay, well, if I want to go, like, if this is what I want to be doing, again, it's like, well, how does she move? Like, how does that version of you move who in a year's time, like maybe you're just starting out, how does that version of you in a year's time who's got like 4,000 followers, what is she doing? How's she moving? Where are we going with this? What's she posting like? What are her stories like? What kind of offers does she have? What does her business look like? Like, where can we like play in that energy? Can we play in a little bit of like the Delulu vibes? Because I feel like that is what is going to help you step into not just having like a community of like besties, right? Which feels nice, but you're going to build a business, you're going to build a brand that gets you seen, that turns heads all over the internet, that dissolves competition. People don't even need to look at your competitors because they're just so magnetized by you and you become the one for them. And they don't care how many followers they don't care how many likes you get. They genuinely just want to be with you. And again, it comes back to that thing, well, are you sold on you? Do you genuinely believe on you? And then that we dial it back. So it's like, well, you only need to be 2 steps ahead. Well, what you're teaching everybody is amazing. And so you're good. You're good. If you are this person, like, you're good. You just keep flying. You just keep going.
Yes, that's very motivational. Thank you. Are these the kind of because you talk about in your content about, like, you see people, we're asking the irrelevant questions when we're trying to grow. Is there anything else that we should be asking to help us grow and become this authority figure?
So there's always 2 things. Like, I am very much on the fence of like, on the side rather of, we refine the strategy, we get really good at the strategy, we master the strategy because we need it, right? Like, don't be fooled, right? I love like energetics, as you can tell, and I love like tapping into these different sides of myself. But at the same time, like, I do not for 1 second, like, you cannot do this without understanding what to post, how to post it. You cannot do this without understanding your ideal client and having offers that are beautifully created for her. You cannot do this without an audience or a community or a movement, whatever you want to call it. Like, you cannot do this without a hot audience. In my world, that's what we call it. Like, we cannot do this without a hot audience who is like ready to buy what you have. And so these are things that need to be in place. In terms of the questions you need to ask, it's like, okay, cool. Well, instead of asking, why is it not working? Why am I not getting views? Why are my story views so low? Why did only 2 people sign up for my masterclass? Like, instead of those questions, it's like, okay, cool. It'll always come back to this. It's like, who do you need to be? And how are we going to do that? So you want more people to sign up for your masterclass? Boom. There we go. Go move. Go make it happen, Send the email, do an Instagram live, collab with somebody, like, get your name out there, get on a podcast. Like, these are things that are going to change the whole game for you. And so when you actually realize, like, you are in control of every move, you're in control of your sales, you're in control of how many people see you on Instagram, like, you're in control of so much more than you actually give yourself credit for. But it's when you outsource your power to the algorithm, you outsource your power to the views, you outsource your power to the person who ghosted you in the DM, like, however many days ago. It's just, you're going to get stuck in that game. So when you are finding yourself, why is this not working? Why is all the things happening? Ask yourself, who do I need to be? And then go and actually do things that are going to serve you. It's not just about sitting back. That's my thing.
Yeah, I love that. And so it's being very honest with yourself as well and kind of mapping it out. Like, where am I struggling? Is it with the strategy, or have you done all the courses on strategy and maybe it's more
Exactly.
like stepping into this power of yourself? And I know you were talking about you're up leveling all of your nutrition and your diet and your
Yes.
exercise regimes to to like make up for that. So yeah, it's being really honest with yourself. And what would she do? She would maybe invest in that content, or she would go and do this.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I think, I say this to my clients a lot, like really where you leak in your life, you'll leak in your business. And so there's a lot of things that we need to really be honest with ourselves about, like even more than that, like you say, the lifestyle's one thing, but it's like, you know, how are you behaving with people around you? Do you have boundaries or do you say yes to everybody? Because that say yes is going to come through when you're signing clients or even when you're creating content and stuff. And so these are like little things to catch yourself with, because as you grow and evolve, these things are going to come with you and they're going to hold you back from whatever it is that you want to do. You want to build the business, you want to sign your next client, you maybe just want to, I don't know, go and host your first challenge or like a summit. These things are going to hold you back unless you start cleaning them up from you first.
Yeah, once you achieve something, it's such a booster as well. Even if it didn't go quite the way you planned it to, it's still like you did it and you learned so much along the way. And I think that's really powerful in itself. So are there any very common mistakes that you see people doing and when they are sort of trying to position themselves as an expert, and how can they avoid them?
Oh yeah, heaps. So I think the first thing that I see people doing a lot is like playing in educational content land. So it's like, and I think we've all heard the pillars like educate, inspire, and entertain. And those are like, to me, those are not content pillars, right? Like when you're doing that, that just keeps you further in the friend zone with people. And so you'll know if you're in the friend zone if you get like those comments that are like, oh, you're so inspiring, or you're so amazing, or thanks so much for the tip, and then nothing happens. And so when you're in the friend zone, like people are going to like you, they might come to your page, it might be super helpful, might even look like a textbook, but they're going to go and buy from someone else. Because I genuinely believe like your dream client, like she's in your audience, she's watching your stuff all the time, she's there, but she needs to see and feel certain things from you in order for her to buy. And I'd say another thing that I see people not doing, which really does dilute this, is that they are really scared and they water their content down because they're scared to share their own opinions. They're scared to like say something that someone might disagree with on the internet because they're like, oh no, this is going to offend Aunt Susie's uncle brother's dog. Like they're not going to put that stuff out there. And so again, like, what do? We keep ourselves in safe educational content land. And so we look like the textbook, but nobody's going to buy. But when people see your values, they see your beliefs, they see like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I don't necessarily agree with this, or they're like, oh, I love this. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, you're going to get a lot of people, a lot of haters on the internet. Like, that's going to happen the more that you get vocal about this, but you're also going to get a lot of fans. You're also going to get a lot of people who are like, boom, you're the person for me.
And so I think that it's really important to maybe go audit your feed, have a hard look, honest conversation with yourself, and be like, cool, what do I need to shift? What needs to change? And a lot of people do get scared, or they're like, I don't really have opinions about things, or I don't really know how to like say these things. Like, a lot of people come up with that, but I guarantee you that you do. Like, of course you do. Any person, especially yoga teachers, any person that is teaching yoga, they have got a lot of opinions, because you would not be in this practice and get a lot of the flack that you do by deciding to become a teacher if you didn't believe wholeheartedly in certain things. And so I really do think like when you lean into that, you're going to start becoming like the go-to. You're going to stand out. You're going to really like make yourself known and get shared across the internet, and you're going to dissolve all competition. But when you're just playing in education land, like that's just not it. That's just going to keep you like a helpful little textbook, which is not what we want.
Yeah, that's good advice. And it is time for the rapid fire question round. So if you could turn to yourself in the first year of becoming a business owner and an entrepreneur, what advice would you give?
I would say buy the freaking course. Buy the course. Just do it. Buy the course, invest in the mentor, just do it. You are your best investment always. Like nothing, like you can't break this. You can't break this. You will always get something from this. Just invest and do not second guess that decision ever.
And do the course.
Do the course. Yes, exactly. Exactly.
That's good advice. And cool, thank you so much. This has been really powerful. How can people connect with you and find you, I guess, on Instagram?
Yes. I need a website, Adrian. It's coming. I need a website. We don't have one yet.
Where to go.
I know where to go. But yeah, Instagram, you can find me under It's Gabi Metz. That's where everything's happening. And I would love to connect with you guys. So that's amazing.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today and sharing this. This has been very motivational and very powerful. I've definitely been called out on a few things that I have to work on today. So thank you so much. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks, Adrian. You too.